Well, hey, everybody, it's Jason.
And Bill.
With another episode of Nothing's for No One, featuring our guest, Mr. Josef, who was part of the Cali Death podcast. Jesus, Dreamer. Oh, man, I had it so good the first time. Dreamer, Transcend the Realm, and To Violently Vomit. Hell yeah, got it. Bam.
Yeah.
Alrighty, dude.
Cheers,
What's going on, man?
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And Nothing's for No One. Super sick fucking family podcast in the same circuit, I like to think. So.
Hell yeah, man. Fuck yeah, dude. Well, we're stoked to have you on, dude. The Cali Death Show is literally my favorite podcast that's out there right now. I feel like I'm rehashing everything I just said. Right. To our listeners who don't know, we're re-recording this right now, but I cannot tell you guys how much I love this show. You guys have heard me talk about this. I plug it all the time. And it's just awesome, dude. What you guys are doing, interviewing all these Californian bands, it's so cool because you guys are finally getting all this information out there that I've never had access to. You know, you see a lot of bands like Decrepit Birth, Disgorge, Severed Savior. You don't get really a really good glimpse into the history of a band like that because it's really nowhere to be found. So it's cool to see you guys finally doing this stuff, and it's that somebody's even doing this stuff. And what's even cooler is that you guys have, this alumni cast that does the show, which is so cool. And yeah, man, I guess I want to ask then, what was the inspiration behind the Cali Death podcast and to start that?
Yeah, thanks. So originally it was me and Casey, my co-host, Casey Howard, who decided to start the podcast. And Casey and I go back many years. He used to be my music teacher when I was, in high school, and we stayed in touch. I worked at his music school for a while that he opened in Oceanside, California, in San Diego County, called Visions Music Academy. And then, at a certain point, we were both had the idea of some sort of more music content for the internet, and we wanted to do something like a podcast. And we were trying to figure out what the content would be. We both definitely wanted to network with more musicians. And we brought in Anthony, our other co-host, as our first guest. It was kind of a test episode, seeing how it would go, recording with Zoom. And we just I pretty much wanted to interview Anthony and just hear his background and his story. And then we found that was a style that worked. That was a good modality for creating content. And then Anthony happens to just know everybody because, he's a social butterfly in the music scene. And so, of course, he's also been in bands, including, Odious Mortem and Severed Savior. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, basically, Anthony became a big part of just connecting us with the first four guests that we had: Decrepit Birth, Deeds of Flesh, Severed Savior, and Disgorge.
Hell yeah.
And so it kind of just soon settled in where we had a little bit of different inspirations, where I was thinking I really want to get a history that we could turn into a book project, which I'll talk about more. I think for some of us, it was like just kind of wanting to share stories, oral history kind of thing. And when we brought Joel in, Joel's also a huge, node in this big metal network where so many people know him, and Joel's been able to get a lot of our guests for us too. And so in a way, it's like a combination, like drinking event and doing research for a book at the same time. So it's fun and we get to hang out. But in the end, there's this real deep history that, as you mentioned, you can't really find unless you know the people and know, you've been there or been part of it. And so, eventually I'd like to, put that out in different forms. But right now, the format we're releasing it in is just in these long form interviews. And it's been going great so far. We're on 18 episodes at this point. And each episode's like 2 or 3 hours. And it's just been a ton of fun. And we haven't missed an episode or had a host not be on an episode. All four of us are there every week since the first time we were all together with episode 2. So yeah, it keeps us all together and sane. And through the pandemic, it's just been a fucking blast. So.
Yeah, man, it's so fucking cool. And I love when Anthony gets drunk on the show, man. It's so fucking funny. That episode with Dan Kenny and him is just like, I think I've watched that episode probably 3 times now just because I think it's so fucking funny. It's so funny just to see him get like just a little unhinged there. It's very entertaining, but yeah, it's an awesome show, man. And it's such a cool idea. Like, it's so cool to get like that view, because like I was saying earlier when we were first recording this, I feel like there's so much out there about metal that doesn't cover all these awesome fucking bands. It doesn't. It's like, it's almost just like, unless you know about them or you've heard of them, it's going to fly under your radar. So it's cool to see, like, especially in the podcast format, it's like, I couldn't think of anything more perfect to do. And it's just so entertaining, man. And they're nice, like juicy, long episodes. We're talking like
get a lot of information out of them.
Yeah, dude, 2.5 to 3 hour episodes. It's like, I love that. It's like, give me more of that shit. So it's always entertaining. And what's cool is like, I think there's probably been it was one band I didn't know of that you guys interviewed. And I can't think of their name. It wasn't on Ominous Ruin. It was either the one before or after that.
Maybe Exhausted Prayer.
Yes.
Or a pretty underground. Yeah.
Yeah. I had never heard of them. So it was cool to be like, oh, fuck, here's a historic death metal band from California that I've never even checked out. I didn't even know who they were. But, it's so cool to see you guys interview Nate from fucking Ontogeny. I love Ontogeny and I love Anomalous, dude. A lot of these bands are a big influence on Roman Ring. Like
are
these.
They?
Bill is known for being the least metal out of all of us. And but it's funny because like when I first joined my other Roman Ring, a lot of those guys like Danny, I think the first time I met him, he was wearing
butt beat.
Yeah, he was wearing a Severed Savior shirt. Franco was wearing an Anomalous shirt. I'm like, oh fuck, these guys know sick ass bands. Yeah. And so it's cool because it's like, there's a handful of guys out here that love that kind of death metal, including myself. So it was cool to join Roman Ring because I remember, oh fuck, here's finally some guys that know what's up with death metal, and then on top of that, little did I know.
I know nothing.
But it's sweet, man. It's really cool to see this whole thing unfold. And yeah, it leads me into what I want to ask you next, which was like, how did you get involved with metal and what was your introduction to start playing metal, especially around, California where you grew up?
Yeah. So, when I pretty much from when I was a young kid, 6 or 7, I started on piano lessons. My parents are both musical. My dad is a folk musician and, he used to be a tour manager for famous folk legend named Ramblin' Jack Elliott. He also had his own radio show and TV show in the local Santa Cruz County area. So it was I was born and raised to be a musician. And so when I was about 12, 13, starting to get into my own, into the local music scene, into pop culture and music culture, Santa Cruz is like a surf town with a huge surf and skate culture. Santa Cruz, you recognize the logo. It's on all the cool sweatshirts and everything. And the scene, it was very much, that punk, reggae, skate punk kind of music.
For sure.
And so that was what I first started playing. And I was also into, Nirvana, Red Hot Chili Peppers, that kind of stuff. And then, when I was like 15 or so, I started getting into melodic metal. I started getting into those, Swedish bands like In Flames, Arch Enemy, Opeth. And then the first like extreme death metal that I heard was, I think, Annihilation of the Wicked just came out. And that was what kind of, oh my God. And I wasn't like ready for it at the moment, Yeah,
like, dude, that was the same thing with me, man. When I heard fucking Cast Down the Heretic, I was like, I've never heard anything that sounds this aggro. I've never heard anything that sounded that fucking just pissed off. And, like a guy that just got like, who's been stuck in traffic for 5 hours and got like rear-ended and like it's like oh fuck, this is coming out. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
And I was really into mythology as a kid, and so just it was beyond the music, the entire Nile just putting all that research into their lyrics and having that whole epic statement of musicality but conceptual depth behind it. It was so cool, and I was super obsessed. And then it was Decrepit Birth was the other big band. And they were local and getting pretty famous at the time. And I don't remember how I first heard of them, but I think I must have seen their logo just on stickers and posters around town and stuff. And they were just starting to create the, newer melodic sound that was on the Diminishing Between Worlds album.
Hell yeah.
And at the time, the Anti-Time Begins stuff, that was a little too gnarly for me, but just getting into them through the diminishing material, that was what really hooked me on Cali Death and the California tech death style. Around the same time, of course, I was starting to listen to the same bands that they were also listening to, like Necrophagist and Psychroptic, Spawn of Possession. And so, then I connected with KC as a teacher. I started playing, I had high school bands where we'd play punk or reggae, and we did some shows. We started learning how to demo our own material. And then, basically I decided to take a little break from playing in the local scene and decided to go off to Wisconsin to college. So I lived up in Wisconsin for a few years. There was one period where I decided I actually wanted to try to make it again in music back home. And that's when I joined this band called Kanos. And that was my first kind of more serious metal band. And that had Riley McShane as vocalist at the time, who's gone on to sing for Inanimate Existence and Allegion and, Son of Aurelius. So we also had some members at the time, Shane and Finn, who went on to a really cool Oakland-based Black Doom project called Gloam. Okay. And so that was kind of the outgrowth of that project. But so I played bass in that band, and I was developing my tech death chops, and we played some sick shows. But then I took another break to finish up college, went back to Santa Cruz again. And so when I was like 21, 22, I was in a few cool bands. I started playing drums for a black metal band called Forest Muse. We played some sick shows. We actually opened a show with Gorod, Inanimate Existence, and Embryonic Devourment.
Oh, wow.
And
what
that
a sick show.
It was a sick tour.
Yeah.
I think that might have been a bloodletting, or it might have been one of those sponsored tours. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, that was like, kind of first time getting to play for a cool, on a cool bill like that.
Sure.
So then I was also playing bass in like kind of like a math rock project, and I was also doing my own solo material, which I ended up doing as a demo. Four song demo where I recorded everything, including vocals and drums, guitar, bass. So I was just really spreading kind of wide, trying to find a project that would work. But then I again went off to school, at this time in Davis for grad school. And I kind of had to restart over again.
Sure.
And when I moved down to UCI for another grad school program, and my wife had a job here and we relocated, that's when I connected with Transcend the Realm. They were looking for a drummer, and that was the first band where we toured. So, we've done like 5 tours so far. And so that was kind of, Transcend the Realm was what gave me a good break for being able to tour. And I recorded an album on them with them on drums, the Perennial Discoveries album in 2017. And I mean, I can keep going until, when I joined Diego and To Violently Vomit is kind of the next step. So
sure. Okay. Yeah. How did that come about?
Yeah. So I reconnected with Casey around this time, and he was teaching at his own music school called Visions Music Academy.
Okay.
And I became another teacher there. And he and Diego go way back, and they're both from the San Diego scene. And if you watch the Cali Death episodes, it'll get brought up very often how much Diego was part of that scene.
Sure.
And so he and Casey were jamming once in a while, and Diego was getting ready to bring To Violently Vomit out to, I think it was Las Vegas, was going to be LV Death Fest, they were going to do a show.
Okay. Yeah.
And it ended up not working out with the drummer that he was jamming with at the time. And so he asked Casey if Casey'd be willing to do it. And Casey said, "Nah, I can't, but I have this, colleague of mine who might be interested."
Sure.
And so then I was, I got the referral, and I was like, holy shit, dude. Like,
yeah, man.
they already had a, that Vegas show had passed, but they were planning on doing this LA Extermination Fest in like a few months. And I was like, dude, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I'm listening to Disgorge, and I'm like, fuck, dude, this is some crazy shit. But I think at the time, by that point, I had just finished recording another Transcend album, which, is still unreleased, but I was at kind of like a good place in my playing, and I figured I would be up for it. So I went in with Diego. We did like 4 songs. I had 4 songs ready, our first jam. Womb Full of Scabs.
Hell yeah.
I forget exactly which other songs, but, the easier ones. And it was like, Diego's the coolest dude ever. Everyone knows him as the coolest dude ever. And he was just super supportive. And, I was really nervous because, this is like a coveted drum position that I knew a lot of people are going to expect a lot from. But I just had to build up my chops. And a lot of it was, I knew the technique. I knew how, I knew how to count hard song structures and everything. But just the endurance was a big factor. So I had to build up my arm strength, especially. And so, for a few months, I just really built up the muscles. And
that's awesome.
I don't know. We finally did that LA Extermination Festival where we headlined. We played with Condemned was there, and a couple other big bands were there. But we were, the last band, and I was like, dude, I made it. I'm like headlining metal festivals, like,
yeah, man.
And we got to do that show with AJ on vocals, and I got to play with one of my favorite metal vocalists as well. And so, that's kind of how that came about. And I got to hand it to Casey for referring me, and then Diego for just, sitting with me while I was learning the material.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Yeah, and those those songs are no joke. Like, they are ball breakers, dude. Like, you listen to that, the drums never let up on any of those songs. It's just like, I would not even know where to start. If somebody was like, learn a Discord song, I would just sit there with my dick in my hands being like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, and I've seen footage of you playing with the Violently Vomit live, and I'm like, fuck, dude, this guy's got it. He's got it down. Yeah, man. That's so cool, dude. It's awesome to see that. So it's really cool to be like, seeing that and like watching that. I remember seeing that video of you guys jam on the episode where you had Diego on, which sounded so cool. And yeah, it's just fucking, that's so sweet, man. That's so cool. It's like mind blowing to me, that like you're playing with Disgorge, or basically what Disgorge would be now, I guess. And that was the funny thing. Like, it took me a while to realize To Violently Vomit is the band that is essentially, playing those Disgorge songs live. Cause I didn't know it first until one day I was on Encyclopedia Metallum looking up Disgorge, and somewhere on the notes it says like, To Violently Vomit is the current project of Diego that plays these songs live. So it's like when I heard that, once I gathered you were playing with it, I was just like, holy fuck, that's insane. Yeah. That's so fucking cool, man. So yeah, I guess, what I want to ask you next is like, what do you think that's the biggest musical project you've done so far yet? To Violently Vomit?
Yeah, as a live show, absolutely. Because when I jumped in, it was straight up like, Till Violently Vomit are headlining this festival already, and so I'm joining up just in part to be able to play that kind of show, and in the future shows like that.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, in a way, it was the biggest project I've done. And I would also say, we still have the goal of doing more festivals and doing more shows and maybe doing tours too. I mean, Diego's certainly up into it. In fact, we were talking about an Asia tour for 2021. All the way up until, around March this year, it was in the plan, and we were working with a booking agent. And, Diego had just gone over there with Cephalotropsy the year before.
Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, wow. He's playing with them now?
Yeah. He actually also plays bass with Cephalo.
No shit. I didn't know that. Damn. Okay.
Yeah. So we had the security of like, okay, if Diego's gone and had a good tour, then, I was feeling really comfortable about, our safety, whatever, just being able to go tour Asia. So, and we're still looking forward to that. So in the sense of international opportunities as well, and headlining type shows, this is definitely, and that was all part of why I wanted to join. I wanted to be able to go play festivals and go play live.
Hell yeah.
Big events. So kind of jumping, as a drummer, you get these opportunities because everyone needs a drummer. So
yeah, everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very true. Yeah, and that's awesome. And you're a multi-instrumentalist, which is, I find these days pretty rare to find, especially like a drummer as talented as yourself, because I see, I mean, there's so many guys out there that'll like, they'll sit behind a kit and they're like, yeah, I could play everything. And then it's like, they got a couple tricks here on the drum kit, but it's like, they're so limited. But watching you play, and I mean, hearing the songs that you sent me 2 of your own solo songs that you're working on right now, which sounded awesome. And then the new Transcend the Realm, which sounds fucking insane, dude. Like, I can't even play that shit, dude. And I only know how to play drums. Like, it's very, very impressive. So one, I guess I wanted to ask, like, well, I wanted to ask 2 questions. One, last one about the To Violently Vomit is, do you guys have any plans on making any original music and recording any albums or anything like that?
Yeah. So the last time I jammed with Diego, we started working on a song that he's written, and I started putting drums to it. And we took a little recording of the session that we played it, and it's sitting on my phone, and I can listen to it and hear what I was doing, and I can hear Diego's riff still. And so, yeah, we've got at least one song in the works, but I think Diego has more material ready to go. Also, Diego tends to write with other people. That's how all that Discord stuff came about, was just jamming. Yeah. And unfortunately, we live like kind of 60 miles apart, so we can't get together to jam and just hash out new material. Yeah. When we get together, it's kind of got to be an occasion, and we kind of want to do the set list just to make sure we're all up to go. But now we're starting to decide, or it's been kind of decided that we're going to start writing that material, and hopefully bring some like OG TVV material out there. Man. And
that would be awesome.
And I'll tell you that the song that he's writing is super sick, and it's slower and sloomier. It's kind of got that Disentomb style of like doom death, and it felt right to just figure out, okay, triplet 16th double bass over these slow parts, and it's not, it's different from Disgorge, but it's got that Diego style, and it's always going to be the heaviest, sickest, brutalist riffs, no matter what.
Dude, of course, man. That sounds awesome. I fucking love Disentomb. They're probably like, I would go on a limb and say they're probably my favorite death metal band that's like, current out, I guess relevantly out there speaking. I love them, dude. So that's really exciting to hear, because I hear a ton of Disgorge influence in their music. So it's really sick to hear, maybe they'll come in 360, because that slow shit they do is so sick and nasty, dude. Oh, it makes me want to take a shower after I listen to it, man. So good. So that's fucking awesome, man. So you're also a college professor, right?
Yeah. So right now I'm a lecturer. So, not quite to the role of my nickname.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been a kind of an academic also this whole time, mostly as a grad student. But just this last year, I settled into the role of lecturer at UC Santa Cruz, and I've been teaching their class, just College 1. It's freshman kind of humanities and social science, intro to college type stuff. But before that, I've been in philosophy grad programs, and logic and philosophy of science was specifically the subfield and the department I was last in. And so, yeah, I would get to teach, as a TA, I would teach a lot of, or assistant teach a lot of classes, logic, mathematical type, social science stuff. And then I back at Davis where I taught a lot of philosophy, intro to ethics, philosophy of science, philosophy of mind, all that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of my career basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome, man. That's so, that's very, very admirable.
Very cool.
Yeah, we definitely do not have as cool of careers as that.
Well, it's been a wild ride. It's been really fun. It's been difficult to balance with music as a serious hobby, or even like side career. I'll tell you that. The last program I was in, it was one of the top in the world at UC Irvine. And the people who were doing well in the program were seriously dedicated to it, so much that they couldn't really have another project that they were taking as seriously. And that was a point where I had to sort of face up, well, is this enough? Is this satisfying for me? Full stop, as something that I'm dedicating my life to, that being philosophy or academia.
Of course.
And at the time, it turns out I didn't quite have that much drive for it. I like to do different things in more or less, equal components.
Sure.
So I stepped away from the going full blown in that direction. But I have lots of friends who are doing that, including friends who happen to be ex-musicians, and some of my best friends in philosophy and academia are killing it. So one of my friends, just a shout out to Fabio and his family, they got a job. He got a job out in Germany. But before that, he came from Brazil, where he was a guitar player and instructor. He's been one of my best friends through academia and supported me in my decision to kind of take a step down from it to focus more on music. And people like that, it was really helpful. And so now I'm really settled into a nice place where, academia at this level of lecture, it's kind of the original gig type economy where, you get these people who get contracts per quarter, per semester, or whatever.
Sure.
And it's kind of working for me right now because I can choose to work when I want, and I can also take time off to go tour if an option. So
yeah, that's awesome.
It's not quite the best option for anyone who wants to, settle down with a family. I'm not quite there yet, so it's kind of perfect for me. So.
Sure. Yeah, that's fucking awesome, man. Shit, dude. I work for a fucking music retail website, and I'm lucky, they let me tour too, but that's pretty much like the best advantage of it, and health insurance. So, got that going.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitely not enough to start a family with yet, but, I'm on my way, sort of, maybe.
You're getting there.
Yeah, dude.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, Warforged is going to make it, or Roman Ring is going to make it. One of the two.
I hope so, man. I'm fucking betting everything I got on it, but yeah, man, fuck. At least Warforged, we made it out to you, dude, and that's where I met you. Was at the Laguna Niguel show we played at the Carmen Bar, which we were talking about before we recorded this. Which, man, yeah, I remember like 3 things about that show. I remember meeting you there. I remember meeting a couple guys from this band called Teeth. Have you heard of them? They're like,
oh yeah,
there's a couple Teeth bands out there, but this was a band called Teeth that they had Luke LeMay from Gorguts on a song. That's my best way of distinguishing them. But they were really cool dudes too. And then I remember that I had a horrible stomachache that day, and the bathroom at that venue didn't have like a fucking, like there was a stall, but there was no door on the stall. And I'm like, all right, I'm not taking a shit here. And there's like there's a gas station / car wash like little ways from the venue, and it was like a mobile, and it was like,
was that the really nice one?
That was that fucking gas station.
That's
and then like a koi pond in the gas station. The bathroom was immaculately clean. Like I brought my little thing of fucking ass wipes with me, and I was like, I'm doing this shit. And I did do that shit
at a place like that.
It was awesome.
Great.
I didn't want to leave that bathroom. It was so sick.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so nice. That is the nicest bathroom I've seen on tour, like to this day. Yeah, and it was in a gas station in Laguna Niguel, California. I never would have guessed it. And
that's South Orange County for you right there. Yeah, they got nice. It's a nice place to be for sure.
Yeah, man, it was sweet. It was a cool part of town too. I know it's not that far from, I don't think it's that far from Laguna Beach, right? It's like sort of similar. Yep.
Yeah. I was just down near there actually today. Well, I didn't make it quite that far, but I was at the beach earlier, and it's all within 20-30 minute drive of each other from me to there.
Awesome.
It's sad to say though that the Carmen Bar is now closed, unfortunately.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Was it due to COVID?
I'm assuming so.
Okay.
And we'll see if there's a venue that bounces back from the same place. Maybe there'll be new owners or something, but
Sure.
as of now, it's not happening. That was really weird because, to go down to South OC for metal shows, it felt weird for us because we were used to going up to LA or Long Beach. And it's like, wait, that's where the old people live. But okay, I guess we're going to go see death metal. And it was a cool venue. It had good sound. I saw Decrepit Birth there once, and that was a good show.
Okay,
good sound. And
they had a bunch of metal shows at Carmen Bar then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Jason from ADHD would book there, so yeah.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, when we were, because we were on tour with Inanimate Existence at that point, and they know their way. I mean, they're from, obviously they're from California, so like they know the ins and outs more than we do. But they said, I think that was their first show at that venue that we played with them. At least I'm pretty sure that's what I remember them saying that day. That was another one of those days where we scrambled to get to the beach before we had to go to the show. We parked on this really sketchy street that we had to like parallel park our van and trailer, and it took like 45 minutes just to do that because we're inept at that type of shit. But it was sweet, man. Yeah, man, I wonder how it looks like in California now compared to like the disgusting Midwest winter that we're currently shedding right now. It's just like so gross out, dude. I took my dog out today. Like we got a shitload of snow last week. We got like probably close to like 2 feet.
Yeah.
Like we had a ton. I had to like dig out my car. It was a nightmare. And then like now it's all melting because this week it's been like, I don't know, in like the 40s,
upper
like
40s,
upper 40s, low 50s. So it's been melting. But like I took my dog out. Like I cleaned the floor, or Sam cleaned the floor this morning when we woke up, and like I took the dog out, brought him back in, and he just brought in all this mud, and I'm just like, God damn it! Like, what am I supposed to fucking do with this? It's just ugh. And like California, I feel so. I love California, man. I fucking love it. I'm bougie. I think it's sick. I think LA is sick. I always love it when we go there on tour. It's like some of my favorite shows we've played as a band have been in California, and one of them being at a place called. Have you ever heard of? I think it's called the Blue Lamp. It's in Santa Cruz. Have you ever played there before?
Yeah. Oh, so the Blue Lamp is in Sacramento, but there's a venue in Santa Cruz called the Blue Lagoon.
There we go. We played both of those venues on that tour. That's why I get them confused. Up. But the Blue Lagoon was fucking awesome, man. That was a very cool show. We played with this band called Obastra. I'm pretty sure that's what they were called. And I don't think they're a band anymore, but they were really fucking cool.
Right.
Yeah, it was a pretty sweet show. And there was a really cool record store right next to the venue.
Oh,
that
cool.
was really sweet too.
Streetlight Records.
Streetlight Records, is that what it's called?
Yeah, shout out to Kai Killian. I think he's still stocking the shelves there. And that's where I probably bought Niles, Annihilation Wicked, all those classic albums. That's where I would go record shopping.
Wow, that's awesome, dude.
They're still going. They're really sick. And I also that Gorod show that I talked about playing and opening for, that was at the Blue Lagoon as well. So yeah, that's a sick venue. And I hope that they stick it out. And I think they're gonna manage because they don't just do metal. But Blue Lagoon is a rad Santa Cruz institution. So.
Yeah, man. When we played our show there was like on the other side of the venue place, there was like a dance floor thing, and there was some like club thing going on there. So there's a shitload of like non-metal people there, and it was one of those very few venues that would like take my drink tickets and give me wine instead of beer. So I drank like a bunch of sangria at that.
Nice.
It was a great time.
Fuck yeah.
And I met Chase from Animosity, and now of I forget what he's Continuum. He came out to the show and he was like, "Yeah, you're in Warforged, right?" I'm like, "Dude, what? Are you were in Animosity. Why are you even talking to me right now?" Like, it was fucking nuts, man. But I remember at that record store, I bought a copy because I never had a copy of it, but they had Cryptic Implosion by Odious Mortem, and I was like, "All right, sick. I'm here. I have to buy it." It was like $7 or something, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'm buying this right now." It was a great time, but. Yeah, man, that's so much fun being out in California. But yeah, dude, so you're also, I saw you guys, you're doing a blog now as well to kind of coincide with the podcast?
Absolutely, yeah. Just a shout out to Chase, who I've driven to many shows together, or, sometimes he needed a ride. And I remember going with Chase to see Nile live. And what did we went to a jazz show, I'm trying to remember, or I saw him at, was it like Jean-Luc Ponty, or we got to see, there's another venue in Santa Cruz called the Cuamba that books a lot of cool jazz, and Chase is a homie, and I just, shout out. But I wanted to say, so the CaliDeath.com, the Cali Death blog or website. Yeah, so I started that this year, January 1st is when I launched it. And that was kind of the first step in transitioning or building upon the podcast towards the writing portion of the project into eventually the book. But so CaliDeath.com, it's where I just have been making episode excerpts. So part of that like source material that I take to be the original podcast material, I just am looking at stuff like, okay, what's going to be in the book? What's going to be part of the real story that actually gets immortalized in this way. Mm-hmm. And then I'm also using it as a space for album reviews. And I've reviewed the Ominous Ruin album that came out this week. I've got plenty of plans for the website. This month it's been a little quiet there. I've been working on a lot of my own music, so the stuff that you heard, that was my focus this month. But yeah, there's plenty of plans to be writing, under this kind of Cali Death alias on the website. So I can talk plenty about what my plans are with that. But yeah, eventually the idea is to just just create kind of a space for more content beyond the podcast.
That's awesome,
that's inspired by it. Yeah.
That's fucking killer. So I want to ask you about your solo music, because you sent it to me and it did sound pretty different from like something like Transcend the Realm, at least from the song you had sent me. And I guess I want to ask, what is the vibe, or what, doing this own solo music where you're writing everything, I'm assuming, and playing everything as well, since you are, you play more than just the drums. What kind of started that idea, or what, I guess I want to ask, what started what started that idea for you to do something on, completely on your own, and what is the inspiration or the influence behind that stuff?
Yeah, thanks. Good question. Yeah. So, I think it just, I think everybody kind of has their own band in the back of their mind, even if they're in another project that, they get famous for or whatever. I think everyone starts thinking, I want to have a band that is like Decrepit, or that is like Nile or whatever. And then sometimes you find out that, I'm actually not the most prolific songwriter, but I'm pretty good at my instrument, so I'm cool just playing with this other band or whatever. So for me, it's like, I've had this, I've had my own band, this own idea, all the way back to high school, when I kind of had that band actual in person, and we were playing some like high school battle of the bands and stuff. And I was starting to write material that was kind of in the middle, like, of the melodic stuff, the prog stuff, and the brutal stuff. So I ended up first putting out an EP of solo material that Max Zygmunt helped me record. So shout out to Zygmunt, who tracked and produced that stuff. Zygmunt was, Son of Aurelius and Animate, that whole scene.
I remember him from Son of Aurelius. Yeah. He
tracked pretty much all my bands at the time, including my black metal stuff and my other math rock stuff. So, so then I had put together, I think 4 songs are on this old EP. I just put it on my SoundCloud, and I just said, this is what I did. These are the songs I've written, and I'm not sure when I'll have a chance to put together a band to play it or not, but here's the songs, and I can play it all. And I'd say the inspiration for that was, I just really wanted to have my own band that, just like, the dudes in Transcend the Realm wanted to have theirs, and I'm part of it, but it's kind of just my own thing. And it's kind of a part of my portfolio to say, look, this is my writing style. So if we want to work together, here's, kind of what, and in the future, I haven't done vocals since then, but it's also, here's what my vocals sound like.
Hell yeah.
I can play some solos. So here's how my solos are. And it was, so there was a bit of a writing lull for a while. So the last 2 songs that you got to hear that I just sent you, those are kind of the first new material, other than one Transcend the Realm song on the unreleased album that's coming out. I contributed 1 song to that. And it's funny that you say it sounds different from Transcend the Realm, because literally right now, the big question is, with the Transcend guys, I'm like, do you guys want to use this material? Is this going to be Transcend the Realm? So it's funny that you say it sounds different, because that's my concern. I'm like, well, does it fit our style or not? Because if it does fit our style, then that's what you just heard is probably TTR number 4. But if for various reasons, there might be, it might be that I do it on my own, and in which case I'd say the inspiration, the real question you asked, like, what's the inspiration behind your solo material? I just still hear stuff in my head that I'm like, I just want to get it out, man. I'm not super prolific as a composer, but I get these cool ideas, and I have, happen to have time and access to the equipment right now, which has been another thing that a lot of people don't talk about, but it's actually to commit to investing in like all the recording software and everything you need when you're doing other stuff with your career or whatever. It's another hurdle to get over, is like, oh, I have this song, but I don't have a way to record it, or I don't have the right instrument. It's not going to sound good yet. But I'm at this point right now where I'm finally able to put some of those ideas together into songs. And so at this point, I just showed it to the TTR guys like literally yesterday, and I'm like, here's what I got. Do you guys want to use it? So that's where it's sitting right now, and whether or not they use it, I'm happy with it. And I got good feedback, so hell yeah, it might work. Yeah,
it's definitely good stuff. It had a little bit of a different vibe, but I could see it working with Transcend the Realm. Definitely, it sounds really impressive. Just the fact that like you did all that on your own. I wish I could fucking come up with shit like that, man. It's like our Roman Ring is like some of our new shit. It's like me trying to like sing ideas, like riff ideas, and hope that Bill and Nate could like understand what the fuck I'm.
We do pretty good with it.
Yeah, it's getting there for sure.
Not that bad.
But yeah, if I was only intelligent enough to play an instrument with strings and know how to record, or even
learn to play piano.
I took piano class in 7th grade.
Okay. And
so
a little
my
bit,
teacher
right?
just yelled at me a lot because all I wanted to listen to was Disturbed, and I was just like,
"That's fair.
You don't understand me, teach."
How do you play Down with the Sickness on piano?
Hell yeah, man. Speaking of gear, dude, we were just talking about this before we were recording this podcast, before we called you. There's a picture floating around on the internet of, the band Viljarda?
Oh, yeah.
So I guess they're recording a new album right now, and they're reamping, and the studio posted a picture of the cab that they're reamping through, and it's made out of granite.
Oh, I just saw on Bill's Facebook page the picture.
yeah,
dude.
Posted out. Yeah,
I've never seen that before. It's so fucking insane.
Absurd.
Yeah. How much do you think it is? Like, how much do you think it weighs?
That's a question for Bill, I imagine, because I have no fucking idea.
I would say probably like 2 to 250.
That's fucking insane. You throw your back out just carrying that.
I threw my back out looking at it. Like,
oh, my back!
I couldn't believe that. I'm like, I mean, it's on wheels, but those wheels aren't going to last too long with that thing on top.
Yeah, how could they, man?
Yeah,
that's like sliding a kitchen counter on wheels. Hey, this is easier.
I've seen grown men bigger than me struggle to move a fucking tabletop like that. Like.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how it'll sound.
I mean, allegedly people were saying on there that it does sound really good. We were talking earlier. I guess there's some magic between like how dense the material is. And obviously granite is vastly more dense than a piece of wood. So it stands to reason that it should sound better, but to be honest, I don't think it would sound that much better.
Yeah, right. To the point where it's worth.
I think it's definitely something cool to look at and be like, yo, check this shit out. Like it's got to be one of a kind. I can't imagine. There's a lot of those out there. It can't be. It's a pretty expensive piece, I would imagine too.
Sure.
I mean, nuts, dude. It's fancy enough to sniff powders off of for sure.
I mean. Yeah,
got that smooth surface out there. Yeah.
Would you ever
you're not gonna scratch up the toilet? Yeah.
Someone looking back at you as you,
dude, fuck yeah, man. But. Dude, you know what's really funny was I was thinking about this because when I was on the way to this episode, I'm still listening to the Exhumed episode you guys released this past week. And it reminded me when last time I saw Exhumed was we're good buddies with the guys from Rivers of Nile. Brody's a good buddy of mine, and like most of the Warforged guys, we always hang out with them whenever they come here. And they did a tour with Revocation and Exhumed, and it was just like the green room was at Reggie's was filled with so much cocaine and so many people doing cocaine. And like, I just asked Brody, I was like, man, I remember talking to Brody. I was like, man, I don't really remember like a lot of cocaine going on. And he was like, dude, he's like, it's Exhumed. And he just said, I'm like, oh, that's cool. But those guys were, I got to meet Mike Hamilton, and I was like, you don't understand. You're so fucking sick. You're from Deeds of Flesh, and I think your drumming is so fucking good. And he was just like, yeah, whatever. And he was very nice to me about it. But he was like, yeah, man. And I'm just like, man, what am I doing? I'm talking to him about his old band, and he's here with Exhumed. And like, yeah, it was really fucking funny. But it was a great time, and it was a very fun show. But man, I will say, the dude that was like, using the Exhumed props was definitely a stinky guy. It smelled like he had not taken a shower in a few days. So Exhumed has like part of their live show is they get like, they have like this theatrical aspect. And when I saw them, they had this dude dressed up in like a bloody like doctor's outfit with like a chainsaw he brings on stage and shit. And he was standing, that little part on Reggie's side stage. Yeah. We were both standing there and he was like changing and shit. I'm like, damn, this guy probably could use a shower, man. But I just thought it to myself. But it's something I very distinctly.
Been nice. Like, hey, did you know there's a shower down there in the green room?
No, he knew it. He kept apologizing to me. He was like, hey man, I'm sorry I smell so bad. I'm like, dude, I don't care, man. It's a metal show,
Metal.
Like, it goes hand in hand. But anyway, so what has California been like during this stage of the pandemic?
It hasn't been too hard. I feel pretty lucky. Yeah. When the pandemic first hit, I was still in grad school and I had a huge portfolio project to turn in, and I had to quarantine myself anyway. So it was so natural. It actually felt, I mean, this is horrible for the rest of the world. But for me, it was convenient because then it took away that like incentive or possibility of slacking off. You know, there's no excuses. Yeah, you know, I will say, you know, in this area of California, I'm in Orange County. It's kind of a purple area. You know, there's some people who are, you know, taking things, you know, the precautions pretty seriously. And then there are people who are pretty lax about it. We happen to be on a university campus where everyone is like super, super, super safe. And, you know, everyone's masked up and everything. And then around that in the ambient area, you can go out and there are businesses that have stayed open the whole time and, you know, just, you know, look the other way or speak easy kind of thing. And, you know, I appreciate kind of the diversity of it. And, you know, it's probably part of the reason that things haven't, you know, settled down so much is that there is all this stuff that's open. But, you know, I'm just lucky that the kind of activities my wife and I like to do or friends that we get to see that we'd like to do would just be like go hiking or go to the beach. And those are the kinds of things that have been safe to do. So
there you go, man. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. It's kind of been like that way in Chicago. Like our cases skyrocketed, then they shut down everything, then the cases started to go back down, then they reopened restaurants, then they had to shut down again. And now we're sort of in the phase where they're slowly starting to reopen again as the winter is thawing and, you know, knock on wood, Chicago winters can be pretty brutal. So it's like, you know, when we had 2 feet of snow, I'm not going anywhere. Right. You know, and it's like, so hopefully there's an end in sight to this stuff soon. My girlfriend got the vaccine, so
nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, my grandparents are getting the vaccine today. So
cool. Good
they got their first dose and they're getting their second dose, I think in like 3 weeks or something like that. But but me, I'm still we're still vaccine free.
Raw dogging it.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much, man. Oh shit. But yeah, I mean, I remember when it first hit, like everybody from Chicago was like, at least it's not like California. And then it worse. Boom, it was just like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely wild, man. I
will say,
I miss the West Coast.
The spike in December in LA, where LA became like the international epicenter of the pandemic, and things were really bad right here, super close to us. And that was pretty gnarly. And you know, we did the shutdown and everything, hardcore shutdown. So yeah, you're right to point out that there were definitely points where everyone else was like, "Oh, we're glad we're not California," and I was like, "I'm fucking scared to be out right now." Right. But
I'm sure, that's got to be crazy.
Cases have gone down. You know, the campus we live on is offering vaccines to all employees at this point.
Oh, sick.
I, via UC Santa Cruz, should be able to get mine sometime next month. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's great to hear.
And one of the first things I'm really excited to start up with is I'm pretty much ready to close on a new practice space up in Long Beach area, where the guys from Last of Lucy are going to share with us. And in particular, it'll be me and the Dreamer guys, which I'll tell you about. And then also, hopefully, the Transcend Realm guys, we start jamming there too. So one of the first things I'm stoked about is just getting back to practicing and rehearsing. So.
That'll be awesome, man. Yeah, Roman Ring, we've been jamming pretty much through most of the pandemic, but Warforged, we have not been doing anything. It's definitely been a little more difficult because some of the guys, they still live, you know, they either live at home or close vicinity with their parents. So it's kind of hard to get that whole thing, you know, going when it's like they're living with people at risk. And one of our members, I won't say who, but they actually got it a few months ago. Knock on wood, they're totally fine. But it's definitely, I definitely miss it, man. I miss playing, you know, I miss everything about music pretty much. You know, aside from like, luckily having something like the Cali Death podcast, you know, to come out so I could actually remember like, oh, you know, guys still give a fuck about this stuff. People still give a shit. And, you know, bands that are still, you know, releasing new music now, which is great. I think if anything, it's like, what better time than now? Like somebody asked me the other day, they're like, what do you think about like releasing an album when you can't play any shows. I'm like, well, I guess it's up to the band, but I like it when bands do that because it gives everybody else, something to listen to, something positive out there there's not much else going on.
And people are listening. It's been proven like everybody's streaming numbers have gone up.
Yeah,
during all this. So yeah, people are listening.
I feel like I've been listening to more music now than I have like in the last like 3 years, probably, especially metal. It's like I've been so like going headlong into like all these metal bands now, especially now that like, you'll have like Steve from Condemned on, and I'm like, well, guess I'll listen to all 3 fucking Condemned albums this week, which is like exactly what I did. Then I make my girlfriend listen to it and she's just like, what is this? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Just enjoy it. Yeah, funny enough, I actually saw, did you see this today? That Abominable Putridity surprise released an album today.
Oh, is that what that was? I saw like I saw like very colorful death metal cover and logo. And I might have passed over it. Yeah.
I guess they just dropped an album on YouTube, like literally like the whole fucking thing out of nowhere.
Nice.
I have not checked it out yet, but I'm planning on jamming it on my way home from here.
Yeah, I'll give that a listen. I would also shout out that everyone ought to check out the new Ominous Ruin album that came out on Friday.
Yeah, that thing's cool.
That is, that's the new level of California tech death right there. And we have a whole episode with them on our podcast, so you can listen to them talk about their history, influences, etc. And we did a real deep dive with them. And that was also the first album that I reviewed for the Cali Death website. You can check out my review of Amidst Voices That Echo and Stone. So that's I'd give a big shout out to those dudes for being really great guests and one of the best connections we've made so far with the episodes.
Yeah, dude, they're awesome too. And funny enough, I just found like by listening to that episode, I realized my buddy, his name's Harley, is now their current drummer. He used to, the first Warforged tour, we did a few dates with this band from California called Enigma that he was in, that I met him through. I don't know if Enigma still does stuff, but they were all super sweet dudes. And Harley was a fucking killer drummer, man. That guy rips.
Yeah. I know. And, to join Ominous Ruin after Andrew Baird has tracked the drum parts, they needed someone good. And Harley, I don't know if they've released it. I've seen the drum playthrough that Harley did of the single Ritual, and it should be coming out pretty soon. Willow Tip should release it, but yeah, he kills it, and it's a great playthrough. So yeah, props to Harley. And I'll just say up front, I've been wanting to drum for for Ominous Ruin for years now, and I haven't been in the right city in California. I've always been a little further away to make it up there, but I'm glad that they found someone to fill those shoes.
Hell yeah. Yeah, he's a beast, man. And Andrew Baird, like, forget it, man. You watch that dude play one song and I just like want to walk away. Just be like, okay. Very sweet. But he's such a humble guy too. And he's so fucking good. It's ridiculous. Yeah. That's fucking awesome though. Yeah, that Ominous Ruin record, you might actually even like that. Very techie. It's almost like, I want to say it's got an Arcspire vibe, kind of, but not as like over the top as Arcspire does it. I don't think anybody could do it like that.
Yeah,
but
they're at the top there with that.
Yeah, pretty nuts stuff. So what do you guys have any like what are the plans going forward with the podcast, and I guess in the grand scheme of things with the blog as well? Do you have any plans right now?
Yeah, so with the podcast, we've talked at length about what other kind of content we might want to add to the channel, in addition to the long form interviews that we're doing. And we've had, a bunch of different ideas. And at this point, we're not settled on what we'll do. But, just to brainstorm with you guys, I mean, one thing I've wanted to do is do like some lessons of some material that some of the guys on the podcast know. And I think, Casey, being a music educator, I think he and I could really get into like, let's like dissect this Decrepit Birth song, or maybe with Anthony, like, let's get into the lyrics behind this, Severed Savior song you wrote, or with Joel, again, with either Odious Mortem material or whatever. And we could also go look back even further, because, if we could take an early Deeds of Flesh song and like figure it out, and other kinds of music lesson type content is another thing, or, maybe more like album reviews, or, like scene in retrospect type stuff where it's like, we're going to listen to Epitaph and talk about it as we listen or some shit.
Hell yeah.
So those are all ideas for possible in additional content. We're definitely keeping up the guest interview format, and that has just struck gold for us. And, everyone who's been a guest, like every week it's a new connection for me almost each week. A lot of these are people I don't meet until just as we're on. And by the end, I'm like, wow, it's so great to meet you. And so that's been a huge plus for me, is I feel like connected to the scene in a way I haven't had before. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I never even thought about that. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you guys, like you're reaching guys like Defeated Sanity. When you had them on the podcast, I was like, oh, fuck, that's some huge shit, So that's got to be fucking awesome getting to talk to these guys and hear their stories and, pick their brains about this shit. Man, it's so much fun to listen to that show, dude. I'm like, it's like the one podcast, that and Your Mom's House with Tom Segura and Christina are like the only podcasts I try to keep up with these days. And man, it's just really cool, man. Cause it's like the closest thing I had to the Cali Death podcast is when like Jamie Josta's interviewing death metal guys, but like he'll get Corpse Grinder on and Trevor from Black Dahlia on, like, and then sometimes you'll get like another like death metal guy here and there, but it's very rare. And it's like Cannibal Corpse is giant, Black Dahlia is giant, so, and it's like you could find their histories in so many places. So
that's true. Yeah.
It's cool to hear this stuff, man. It's so fucking rad. And I'm so glad that you guys are like really fucking doing it. And it just keeps getting better and better, man. Like all these episodes. And I'm like every single week, I'm always just like, oh fuck, who are they having on now? Like, when I saw it was Exhumed, I was just like, oh, this is gonna be sick. And then like, and even the episodes with bands like, Exhausted Prayer, who I hadn't even heard of them before the episode that you guys did with them. It was still like very entertaining to listen to. And then Ominous Ruin, that's they're an example of a band where I've seen their name on the internet all over, but I've never actually sat down and listened to the music until you guys did that episode. And I was like, what is this band about? And then I listened to it and I'm like, oh fuck, this is pretty sick actually. Yeah. So it's cool to be able to discover something like that. Cause it's like, man, I get so fucking jaded on metal sometimes cause there's so much of it and I don't even know like where to go or how to navigate it. Cause it's like, we're living in 2021 now where there's metal bands everywhere you look, so it's cool to hear something like that. And it's cool that like, I feel like that band Ominous Ruin is almost like, following in the footsteps of a band like Severed Savior, who's on like a label like Willow Tip. And, they're releasing an album that's like just straight up tech death. It's really fucking cool. Very cool shit, man.
So the episodes with Ominous Ruin and Exhausted Prayer, those are both guests that I booked on for our show.
Okay.
Whereas I usually don't. I actually also booked Defeated Sanity, which was fucking rad to get to make that connection. But so those are it's cool that you pick up on that, because definitely within the conversation, it's kind of like we want to balance the classic acts with some up and coming acts and give a spotlight or platform for new stuff or for stuff that's more underground that doesn't have distribution or whatever. In the case of Exhausted Prayer, they're like local LA legends, but they are entirely independent, so pretty much nobody outside of California or the American black metal scene would have heard of them. In the case of Ominous Ruin, it's like they're up and coming, so they're gonna be famous, but they're getting there. And it was cool to just start that side of the podcast where we could also promote in addition to just reminisce, so to speak. So
yeah, that's awesome, and that's what's so cool. And what makes it so interesting is because you'll have guys on, you'll have the veterans on, and then you have new guys on. So it's really cool to get that whole angle. Plus, like, you guys are just so much fun to listen to talk. It's just fun listening to you guys have conversations. Like I was saying, I listened to that episode you had with Dan Kenny on. I've listened to that probably like 3 times, I think, all the way through. I've listened to that episode. It's just so, like, I listened to it once and it was funny, and then I got ripped and listened to it, and I was like, this is even more funny. Yeah, it's just it's so fucking good, man. I love when Anthony fucking drinks too much, dude. It's so fucking, he's so funny. He just starts slurring words. I'm like, this guy rules. Yeah.
That's so rad. And I'll tell you, and he'll be delighted. Him and Joel will be delighted to hear that you enjoy the slur antics, because I mean, the slurred words antics, I should be clear, we don't slur on her, but we don't slur in that way. But yeah, it's kind of like each week we're kind of pushing the edge, and it's like, is this entertaining or is this shit show debauchery?
No, dude, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it adds another layer of like, I just want to listen to it even more. Like, dude, sometimes those episodes too go by so fucking fast. Like, I'll have one on while I'm working from home, and like before I know it, I'm like, fuck, this is already over. And then I look and I'm like, fuck, it's already like 4:00, and I've listened to a 3-hour podcast, and it felt like nothing. Like, it's so wild how it works like that sometimes. Because sometimes you'll listen to like, I'll listen to an episode of like, and I don't even really like Joe Rogan, as most of our podcast world knows, but it's like he'll have like a guest on that I want to hear, or like, he'll start talking to a guy, and then it's like I'm like filtering through the conversation because I'm like, fuck, are they going to get to something that I want to hear about, or am I just going to sit here for 3 hours and it's going to feel like it's 6 hours? But it's so cool to hear your guys' flow, because it's really fucking good, especially for like how young the podcast is. It's awesome to see you guys honing in on that shit. But yeah, like, dude, if I have anything to say about it, man, Anthony, like, keep up the drinking shit, dude, because it is fucking sick and it is awesome. It's so
all
fucking
right.
yeah. Like, I would, if I was like talking to him, I would encourage the fuck out of it. 'Cause I'll get high on our show. I'm not high right now, but I'll get like blitzed on our show sometimes, and I just like will watch back on what I say. I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about? Or like, what am I saying? But for the most part, I hope it provides entertainment for some people.
Does,
so yeah, say some stupid shit, eyes on me, whatever.
There's usually an after show like hangout on the pod. Yeah, after we stop the recording.
Sure.
And so that's usually where it gets extra rowdy, extra wild. And,
nice.
Occasionally someone who's not me or Casey or Anthony will show their camera of how many beers they've had or White Claws they've drank, and we're always like, holy shit, dude, like, gnarly. And then we'll get texts at Friday morning like, I am hurting or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's part of it. That's part of what we all miss about metal too, is some of that excess debauchery and just like, getting into that. Yeah, where you just fucking go a little too hard and good stuff comes out of it. And so to the extent that we capture that for other people to enjoy, I think, I'm super stoked on that. And what I think is the coolest part is that never feels too much like it's over it's not so much taking away from the sharing of stories, because it seems to be it's always at the end of the episode, and it kind of builds up to that. So it seems like we get everything I want, which is always, I have these great questions that I want to ask people, and I always get to ask my questions.
Yeah, man.
And we always also get to have the fun too. So
yeah, I love it, because you're always the guy that like brings it back down to earth, where it's just like, you'll ask a question, I'm like, fuck yes, okay, good, I'm glad he got to ask that question. Because it's sometimes it's just like, and you guys, that's the thing, it's like, I've definitely noticed when we've done our show with like a lot of people, it's really hard to keep a conversation focused.
Keep it, going in the right direction.
Exactly. Because like sometimes we'll have an episode where we have like 4 guys on here, and we're like all sitting at this fucking table, like, and it's just kind of like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? And then you add beers and sometimes weed into the mix, and it's just like, it's like
just total chaos.
It's chaos. Yeah, it definitely gets difficult, but it's cool to see how focused you guys are, especially because it's like you're doing it all on Zoom. Like when we do it on Zoom, obviously there's probably like, a slight lag on time or something like that. But to hear the podcast flow like it does, you guys do a really good like job of keeping things tight with like how much you have going on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Casey and I both were Zoom teaching before we started the podcast.
Okay.
I was doing like the entire quarantine, still doing academia and UC classes online, teaching and taking. So I definitely was pretty experienced with Zoom. I think Joel might have been working a video, remote, and Anthony, I think, is pretty new to the whole Zoom thing. And I don't know, man, it just somehow we all just kind of had respect for the guests enough that we would just shut up and listen. And we just figured out a flow. And, there's definitely parts where we feel like, we're all talking too much, or we're cutting each other off. And you kind of hear that once in a while. And we kind of get bothered by that when that happens. But overall, it somehow just kind of works. And I don't know. I think we all just have enough respect for each other as people where none of us are, going to dominate the conversation, because we just all want to hear from each other. So
Definitely. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to have that chemistry too. Yeah, and it's so cool. Plus, you guys like all know each other. You know what I mean? It's like you guys are all so tight with each other. So it's really cool to just see like a bunch of good friends fucking chilling and hanging out together, talking about the shit they love to talk about. Like that's my favorite part of this podcast is like why me and Bill chose to like not have too many specifics. It's just because it's like we'll sit here and just talk about our week sometimes, you know? So it's just fun to have that as an outlet.
It's fun to hear like some of our guests too, like. And they're mostly musicians, so it's like you get to hear that other aspect of their life that most people actually never get to hear about. And you're like, oh yeah, these people are human, and like, you know, like, they do the dumb shit that I do too. You know,
exactly.
It's kind of fun to hear.
Dude, that's probably my favorite part about the Cali Death podcast is that like there's so many, like even the guys that you have on the show remind me of people that are in my life where I'm just like Anthony, the dude that one of the guys on the show. Like almost just like Danny, dude. It's just like having Danny on a podcast. Awesome. Yeah, it's like they're the vocalists. They're like funny. It's like they always say ridiculous shit. It's like awesome, dude. I'm not ridiculous, but you know what I mean. It's just like it reminds me of that shit. So it's so sick to see that. Like, and it's fascinating to me to think it's like, all right, here are these guys that like are on the entire opposite side of almost the opposite. You know, like 20 hours away from where we are. And it's like they're talking about the same sick bands. Like it's crazy how similar that line is. So it's just really cool to watch. And it's fun, man, because it almost reminds me of like going to shows and just bullshitting with people and talking to people. It's like
the hanging out. Like, that's the part I miss, you know.
Yeah, that's the biggest part.
We kind of get to do that with our podcast, you know.
Yeah, you know, we're lucky to have those outlets, but yeah, exactly. So it's like it's so sick seeing that because it's like, oh, it's just like hanging out with some awesome dudes at a show that I fucking miss doing so much, you know? It's wild.
I would say there's even almost like a therapeutic component of it too. Like I've seen, you know, like sometimes when we have a band on and they kind of like talk about how they work as a band and everything, I can see it kind of like being helpful for them to have outlets for you know, internal dynamics or just, I think even with the other guests, the other hosts are all in Odious Mortem, obviously. I've seen them as a unit, like solidify and work shit out just from doing this other podcast project. And I don't know, man, it just feels like people want these outlets and it's great to get to be on your guys's now. And finally, I don't know, just this network of people who care about each other. It feels like we're all musicians and we used to have this through shows and we'd go see friends and stuff. And now we go on podcasts and it works. It does. Yeah. It's been great. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been.
Or we start our own podcast. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. You know? Yeah, that was a really cool thing to see. Cause I was going to when the pandemic sort of started to let up, I was going to the gym a lot more. And before Planet Fitness stopped giving a fuck about masks and all that, which is why I have not returned. But
really?
Yeah, dude. Like I would show up. I was going to I was listening to the Cali Death podcast every time I was at the gym. I would I would listen to the bands and then listen to like when I would do the cardio. I'd be like, oh, he's got like I remember the day the Diego episode from Disgorge was on. I was like, oh fuck, and then I see it's like 3 hours long. I'm like, oh hell yeah. So it's like I started listening to Disgorge. And then by the time I was done with cardio and moving on to weights, I was like, all right, let's get into this podcast. And like, sure enough, I was just like, I got home and I was like, fuck, I need to finish this thing. Yeah, but it's just like, fuck, what was I? Oh, I was talking about the gym, about how they don't give a fuck about it. Yeah. So Planet Fitness, it's like, remember when they started, it was when they were shutting down restaurants again, like in the fall of last year, sort of like beginning of like, I don't know, November-ish, maybe like October, November. Yeah. I walked in there and like, you know, their general rule of thumb at first was like, if you're on a cardio machine, as long as you're, because they space them out, like, you know, the distance, they're like, as long as you're on the machine and stationary, you could have your mask off to work out on, which I guess I understand because it's like, I never did it anyway because I'm like, you can't be too careful with that shit.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, all right, you're staying still. And they're like, once you move the machine, you have to have your mask on at all times. But, you know, and then they were like, I was like, okay, you know, that seems fair. And, you know, Planet Fitness is a cheap ass gym. My fat ass spends $20 a month there, dude. So it's like, you know, they have you clean your own equipment. You know, once you're done using it, you spray it down and you wipe it down. People aren't doing that shit. So it was like, I would just clean before I would use it. And then I would clean after I would use it. Yeah. Just cause it's like, you can't be too careful with that shit. And then like once restaurants started locking down again, their next rule was like, all right, now you just have to wear a mask at all times. But it's like people still weren't doing it, you know? People were lifting it. Yeah, they don't have enough people. And it's like Planet Fitness is a franchise. You got a bunch of teenagers working there who probably don't even give a fuck.
Probably like 1 or 2 people working there.
And I was just like, okay, I'm done coming here for a while because it's a little too sketchy. I mean, now it might be a little more safe just because cases have gone down, but it's still definitely
it's one of those situations. I would wait for the vaccine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. It's like waiting for me to be able to get a vaccine, so I could be like, all right, now I could go out to restaurants and start licking tables and chairs again. You know, that's what the first thing I'm going to do. Check this out. Hell yeah, man! One day, we'll see.
I just got a couple like little dumbbell weights just a couple months ago because I haven't been able to get back to the gym. I do see that the gym near us, the UC Irvine gym, they did move some equipment outside, which is another benefit of California, is that you could just move a lot of that equipment out to the pool side, and people have been lifting out there. So I don't have access, but every time I run the trail near it, I'm just like, fuck yeah, like, you know, get that pump or whatever. So.
Hell yeah, get that pump on. That's awesome, dude. Yeah. If that happened in Chicago,
that's gonna be a while.
You got people in winter coats. You know, like
the springtime's not that nice here.
Yeah, fuck, man. Oof. That would be so nice, though. Yeah, man, California's so sick, dude. I have I don't know what it is. I just love it, man. Something about the West Coast, I just think as a whole is so sick. Yeah, and you guys have so many sick bands out there. You know,
well, it's just so when I part of the cool thing about Cali Death and getting to kind of exist in this world of thinking a lot about this scene, and one of the reasons that I feel a lot of people are interested in it is I think it's where death metal kind of evolved from the older school style of Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel, Suffocation, into something that people can relate to more, even if they're not like into gore movies or even if they're not Satanists or whatever. I think with bands like Decrepit, Birth, or whatever, you get this change in concept, and you get this change in music style, and it seems a lot more like metaphysical and like philosophical, and even bands like going into that tech death style, you get it's like an evolution, right?
Absolutely.
It's a progression, and I think that's for a lot of people where they say that's what I like about death metal now. And for me, I love Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel and all that old stuff, but I don't relate to it the same way. I'm like not gonna wear Cannibal Corpse t-shirts every day or whatever, but I'll rep the new style of logos and shit from Inanimate and those guys, because that's like there's kind of like a psychedelic element in it, and it just feels it's more of a culture that I relate to, and so and a lot more influence from other styles, a lot less of this is our style of brutal death or whatever, and it's more like we love progressive music, we love jazz, classical, a lot of other influences coming in. It just feels a little more like cosmopolitan. And I think that is a big reason why it's had so much influence in other scenes and become, and I also, one more thing is when you look at how death metal got exported away out of, Europe and America, the first band to tour Asia, I think, was Disgorge, death metal band. And now Indonesia is like the biggest like death metal scene in the world. Brutal death metal
capital of the world, man. Come to Indonesia.
Really?
And
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge out there, and in other countries like Thailand and everything. And so it's that California style that made it out there. That a little slammier, a little. It's the New York style is in there too, but I don't know, man. It's just something about that being the style, and just like how California is kind of the cultural center since Hollywood and everything, exporting culture. Somehow we all are part of that too, and it just spread all over the world. So I think that's why it deserves some serious, figuring out of what's special here. And so the podcast is partly answering that question, but that's really what my book that I'm planning is going to be, is like what makes this scene special, and how did this extra level of progression within death metal happen? That was kind of the main question that I kept pushing. Like, what made you want to go from covering Cannibal Corpse songs with your friends to becoming like an accomplished musician who knows how to play jazz and stuff? in particular stories, it's different. But those are like the kinds of questions that I focus on. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, dude, it's so funny that you say that, because I was literally talking to a buddy about this the other day of like discovering decrepit birth, and because I agree with you. I still love Cannibal Corpse to this day, but it's like I'm not a super horror movie guy. Like, I'm not really into like the explicit gore type shit. It's like I've never been in a band, or even think I could really be in a band and like put out, necessarily, because I like in Roman Ring, I have a big hand with the lyrics with our singer Danny, and like that would be like the last thing I think I could ever write about, just because it's like I don't live that stuff. It's not really my main interest, and it's like not only that, but I mean, how many fucking death metal bands have done it already? So like I remember discovering the first Decrepit Birth record I had heard was when it was Diminishing Between Worlds when it came out, because I would agree with you. And Time Begins was definitely gnarly for me at the time. I was like, I don't know what's going on with this. And then I heard Diminishing Between Worlds, and I'm like, whoa, this is like super melodic and interesting. And I picked up a copy of the CD and was reading the lyrics, and it's like, these psychedelic inspired, lyrics where it's like, whoa, these guys aren't singing about killing other people or like, deicide, devil worshipping type shit. So it was just like this whole other inspirational level to me to be like, wow, this could really break those boundaries. And it's so cool because you see that shit. I mean, with so many bands, like I remember, Planetary Duality by the Faceless, which is all about, science fiction and aliens and whatnot. And, these conspiracies about lizard people and shit. And I was just like, fuck, this is nuts. And so sick. And it was just so cool to see all these bands of even like Deeds of Flesh. It's like, they went from like the gore stuff to then like, okay, they start writing about like Vikings and shit. And then the last few albums have been this grand science fiction, opus. And it's so cool to see that progression about like, oh, let's just like let go of these, concepts that have been so oversaturated in death metal. So I do agree with you there. And I think that's probably what appeals to me the most about California death metal, is just the fact that like, so much happened there and so much change happened there. And it's like, dude, honestly, probably 95% of the time, like growing up in the death metal scene around Chicago, everybody's favorite bands were bands from California. It was always that scene. And we were just waiting for those bands to come here. Like I would never miss a Faceless show. I would never miss a Decrepit Birth show. I luckily got to see Disgorge. They did a tour a few years back with Surreption and Cryptopsy and another band, and they played Bada Brew in fucking Crest Hill. But it was like, that might be my only chance to see like Disgorge live, and I was glad I got to do it. But it was like before then I never really had the chance, or at least I wasn't aware of them if they were coming to Chicago prior to then. But I would totally agree with you, and that's so sick that you guys are so invested in doing that, and I cannot admire you guys any more than I already do, because it's just super impressive, man. It's fucking awesome. And it's cool to finally see that. Cause like I've been this like angry curmudgeon about all these, like this whole wave of this new old school sound coming back up. And I'm like, why are all these bands trying to sound like Entombed when we have Entombed? Why are we getting the same rehash of stuff? So like, and it's so big now. Like those bands are so big. Like a band, and I shouldn't be knocking them publicly on here, but a band like Gatecreeper is giant. And it's just like, I listen to that music and I'm like, well, like I could listen to Cannibal Corpse, and I would rather listen to Cannibal Corpse do this. And it's like, it's cool to hear like this focus on these California bands, because I feel like they're the guys that deserve these, like, this light, because it's like they did do a lot of change to the style out there, and they have such a huge influence. And it's like, I feel like it just never got the time of day. So it's just cool to finally see that shit come into fruition. And like, I mean, I've been like, dude, I remember the Deeds of Flesh episode. Immediately I was like, share this with all the Warforged guys, like share this with Roman Ring, like all of my friends who I know love that shit. So it's really cool. It's fucking awesome, man.
So out in Chicago, I mean, do you guys claim like Broken Hope and Gorgasm? Who else is from there? That
Gorgasm is kind of Indiana. That kind of like is a straddler. But we have Broken Hope. Oppressor was another band that they aren't around anymore. But yeah, Broken Hope. It's been like interesting because like they were not a band for a big period of time. And like they stopped being a band before I had gotten into death metal. So I had never really listened to them too much until they started coming back and they were doing a lot more. But Broken Hope is like the big one. Oppressor. I'm trying to think who else. Big big death metal names. We got like, I guess Jungle Rot is kind of a Chicago, Wisconsin hybrid. But the bands, I feel like the bands that get a lot of the time of day from Chicago are bands like Veil of Maya, Born of Osiris, Oceano. Like we've definitely, I feel like there's a lot more presence of stuff like that here rather than like some of the legendary Chicago bands. But it's like, it's cool that Broken Hope is still doing their stuff, you know? And
where are BT Bam from? Between the Buried and Me? Is that
not Chicago? I want to say North or South Carolina. Yeah, one of the Carolinas.
Yeah. I just checking. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
yeah, man. So, do you guys go to the Chicago Domination Fest? Or have you ever guys made it out to that one?
Yes, actually, I'm buddies with Miguel, who runs the fest. He books like the best death metal shows in the city. Like the first time I saw Defeated Sanity was at that show at the Beat Kitchen. They played. Miguel booked it for what? It was that show where Franco got his like face smashed in. Yeah. I don't think you were there, but
I wasn't there.
Yeah, Nate was there and had to take him to the fucking hospital. But things got pretty rowdy, and our bass player was like trying to stand up at the front to watch Defeated Sanity, and somebody moshed into him and like pushed his head into a PA speaker on accident. Monitor. And fucked up his nose a little bit, so that was a bummer. But funny story. I actually drum teched one of the. I think it was the third Chicago Domination Fest over at the Wire.
Awesome.
And I got to, that was an awesome show for me, at least. I got to see Inherit Disease, Obi's band, which was cool.
Yeah.
I got to bullshit. I doubt he even knows who I am anymore, but I got to like fanboy in front of him and Dan, the drummer who runs New Standard Elite. I got to tell him how much I love his fucking label and what he's doing. Yeah. And, trying to think who else played that year. I don't think Broken Hope played that year, but I want to say Brodequin played, which was really sick because they had the drummer at the time that was playing on a drum machine, but he was like blasting with his fingers on this little like touchpad. It was really nuts. Yeah. So
that's a legendary video. Yeah. That's on YouTube, and I was showing that to the guys. Yeah.
Dude, you know what's funny? Yeah. So this guy, I don't remember what it is. He has a health condition where he's not able to play like a full drum kit to that capacity. So he has a little sampling pad he uses and he plays drums on it. Like he's literally going with his fingers like this. I remember like, because I was drum teching for him, and that day they didn't need a drum kit on stage. So I was just like, I went up to him and I was like, hey, listen, man, like, I don't know what you want me to do, but I got your back. And like, I remember, and I'm not trying to speak negatively of this guy, but this guy, I forget his name, but he was just so bummed out that he couldn't play behind a real kit after following all these bands. And I sat down for like 45 minutes and I gave him like this pep talk, and he was so into it. I was like, dude, you're from Brodequin, man. Like, people are here to see you, dude. It doesn't matter if you're playing a kit or not. You're still fucking hammering away at this thing. I was like, I would never even know how to do this shit. And like, sure enough, they like went out and crushed it. And I think like at that show, they sold out of all the merch they brought.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, which was fucking killer. It was so sick. But yeah, I remember that dude sitting by, and he was like, dude, thank you so much. Like after the show, he bought me like a beer and bought me a shot. And he was like, thanks for talking me up, man. That was fucking awesome. And I'm like, dude, anytime. Like, hell yeah. It was so sweet. But yeah, and trying to think who else. There was a ton of, this was a number of years ago now. But it was like a very long all day punishing death metal fest where it was just like all this super heavy shit. But yeah, Chicago Domination Fest is like my favorite thing that the city puts on. But the last couple times it's been going on, I've been gone on tour, so I haven't been able to go. Otherwise I would have been there, but you know.
Yeah, To Violently Vomit, we were supposed to play it, I think this year, maybe the last year too, 2020, and I forget. Okay, so that would have been canceled by the pandemic too. What were we supposed to play 2019? I'm trying to remember. But in any case, I do want to go out and play it. I mean, we're probably gonna play it next time it happens.
Dude, fuck yeah! I will be there if you are there for sure. Well, I'll probably be there as long as we're home. I'll be there regardless. But
yeah, absolutely.
I'll definitely come out and kick it.
I gotta take a little bathroom break. Can I be back?
Yeah, no problem, man. We'll probably get wrapping up here soon anyway, too.
Okay, I'll be back in a sec.
We recently moved in together in January, and she's got a dog that I love more than anything on this fucking planet. He's a 150-pound border collie German Shepherd mix. He's huge, dude. And we're talking about how like I love him so much that I want to try and bring him to the podcast. And even though he can't talk, it would just be so much fun to have him there. I bet Sam would be down.
Probably.
I've seen on the I think on your Facebook some pictures of you and your girlfriend and dog, and you guys seem like a nice little unit. Yeah, super cute, man.
We got our fuzzball unit going on. He's just
so rad.
Yeah, he's awesome, dude. He's just so fucking huge. But he loves death metal, man. He hangs around the apartment while I'm playing death metal all day. He's all about it.
Nice.
Yeah, the lower the frequencies, the more he just stares at the speaker and makes faces. But it's very sweet. Yeah. I was listening to Vomit the Soul the other day, and they have so many obnoxious bass drops that he was just like, every time one happened, he would like look at the speaker. It was very sick. But yeah, man. But fuck, what were we just talking about? Shit.
We talked about Chicago Domination.
Yeah, Chicago Domination. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great fest, man. Mm-hmm. It is very cool.
Yeah.
That would be perfect for To Violently Vomit. That's like the premier spot for you guys.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, like the Midwest, like, I don't know if you've seen these memes of like, girls with the time machine and then boys with the time machine, and the boy guy, whatever, wants to go back to like Ohio 2002 when like it was Putrid Pile and Discord. Yeah. Like somehow there's this nostalgia for the Midwest death metal festivals, man. And so I'm glad that there are some that are still going.
Definitely, man. Yeah, it was a dying breed for a while until Chicago Domination Fest stepped in as far as the death metal went. Because there used to be, I think it was Milwaukee Death Fest. That was like that death fest that went on for, I mean, that's like, I want to say one of Deeds of Flesh's first show in the Midwest was there. I think they were talking about it on that episode, on one of the episodes.
Yeah, we talked about that. I do remember,
Yeah, and that shit was like way before I even knew what, I knew who Green Day was, but I didn't know who the fuck Deeds of Flesh was, so.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
Definitely some older. I'm 29. So how old are you, man? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm just 30, man.
Oh shit. Okay, so we're in a we're very similar age range. I'll be 30 in December. So very not excited. Well, I guess I really don't give a shit, but it'll be something. But yeah, that is very true. It kind of like that fest definitely took that essence of like what those fests used to be. So it's cool to still see that going. Otherwise, most of our metal fests, like we have a Chicago Open Air, which is like where you go see Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson and Meshuggah, which is cool, but I don't want to watch Marilyn Manson. I don't want to pay that ticket price to see Meshuggah, which sucks because like the last few times Meshuggah's been here, it's only been at that fest.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not paying $100 just to see one band. Sorry, but it is what it is.
I don't know. I definitely do this when I see the 1, 2, or 3 day festivals and you're seeing all the good bands and you're like imagining if you were there, you're like, okay, like it'd be worth it to go see Opeth and Gojira, but then I'd have to sit through Papa Roach and Seven Dust. It's like always like, it's like, are you trying to bring like true heads out, or you're giving us just enough reason to go, or you could totally just not bring any of those good bands and all the rest of the people would still go to see Rob Zombie or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's so interesting. I wonder why the fuck that is. I mean, I guess it's for diversification, but it's like when you have one band that's heavy on a tour where it's like, or a festival where it's like maybe not the heaviest, I just find it a little perplexing. But then again, Meshuggah played like Bonnaroo one year.
Really?
Yeah. And Opeth did too, I'm pretty sure. Opeth, one of them played Coachella and one of them played Bonnaroo, which is insane to me either way.
Coachella.
Yeah, they might have, which is also crazy. Imagine seeing like Chance the Rapper and Opeth at a show. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? You're fucking, Harlequin Forest and then, watch fucking Tyler the Creator.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely go if I could.
Well, I mean, if you're bringing up those kinds of, mainstream artists that, are artistically talented, then I'm all for that kind of crossover.
Same.
Yeah, what I don't want is like kind of like mediocre butt metal mixed in with good metal. I'd rather have like cool mainstream metal, like, Mastodon on stages.
Oh, hell yeah.
With that Beyonce is headlining or Frank Ocean or whatever. That could be cool.
Yeah, dude.
Like Death Heaven's kind of starting that. They're at that point. They've been there doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, I still like that band too, man. Death Heaven. I'm definitely still a fan. I still like their music, and like it's cool to see them break into that. Yeah, didn't they do a Coachella one year or a Bonnaroo or some shit like that?
They've done like all of those, man. Def Heaven did that whole circuit of huge
good for them.
US shows. So yeah,
that's got to be huge for a band like that.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I wouldn't even know what to think playing something like that. That would
Maybe,
be like a stage fright show for me, for sure.
I should think about booking them for Cali Death Podcast, actually, now that you mention it, you know?
Dude, yeah. That would be...
I wonder if there's anyone there who'd be interested in it, you know? Because a lot of those big bands, they'll be like, oh, I grew up with Severed Savior, blah, blah, and then they want to talk about it. So, yeah.
You should hit up... I mean, I remember the two guys from Death Heaven used to be in that band Rise of Caligula with Rob from Fallujah, their bass player. Yeah. And like, yeah, it's so crazy to think like that dude went off to do Fallujah and those guys went off to do Death Heaven, like two such like vastly different bands. So that would be sick to hear, like have them on this wink, wink. If you could ever get them on the show, that would be fucking killer. I mean, I'll listen to anybody you get on the show, but still that would definitely be sweet. Cause yeah, I bet they probably would be like, have so much to say about a lot of those bands. Man, I would kill to see Severed Savior anywhere or even Odious Mortem anywhere. Never got the chance.
So behind the scenes, you know, it's Odious Mortem. I can say they have a full album written, and you know, right now they're looking for someone to help them put it out. And there's talk about the other usual things that happen when bands put out albums. So
hell yeah,
I can't say anything more than that, but I've been privy to some of it, the conversation, and it's been fun to see. And of course I root them on, and you know, I agree with you. I would fucking love to see Odious Mortem live. I mean, there was even talk of me playing live with them if they were ever going to come back to do shows, which is another holy shit. I don't think I can play that on guitar, but we'll see. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's you know, it turns out they might have someone else who's even better qualified, so that would be best. But anyway, I mean, obviously those dudes are now some of my best friends, so I wish them all the best in the world.
Yeah, man. And they had a pretty big gap between the last two records. Like I remember Cryptic Implosion was out when I was in high school, and then is Synesthesia the name of the newest one?
Yeah, that came out January 2020. It was a 13-year gap. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck, man, that is wild. And it was still on. That was still released on Willow Tip, right?
Yep.
Okay,
that's the Willow Tip album. Yep.
Yeah, I bought a copy of it like after the first episode because I didn't realize that there was a new Odious Mortem out. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I texted Danny and I was like, do you know about this? And he was like, no, what the fuck? And sure enough, it's still fucking killer. Awesome.
Yeah, it's fucking rad. And yeah, I mean, the performance on the album is still top notch. And the new one that they're putting out, you know, that they're getting ready to, they're in pre-production for it. I can tell you just from hearing what demos I've heard, it's a little more modern style. And I like the direction they're going. And I think it might be their best one. I think it might have a little more of a cryptic vibe compared to the Synesthesia one, which, yeah. So I think a lot still to be excited about, and a lot more in that band that you might not, you know, you might have written them off because, you know, they took a 13-year gap, but people are still hungry for that style. And those dudes are all, dude. So it's this whole new like middle-aged dudes playing death metal thing, you know, like we're all going to have to do it at some point, and they're gearing up for it. So.
That's awesome, dude. That's so fucking sick to hear. Well, shit, man. I feel like we've taken up a lot of your evening tonight. And it's already about to be 9:30 here in Chicago. So we'll let you get the fuck out of here. But dude, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Dude, thanks so much for having me. This was a blast. It's so nice to connect with you guys. I would love to have you guys on the Cali Death podcast, and I'm going to recommend you guys. And when these other hosts of mine watch this show, they'll be like, oh yeah, these dudes are sick. We'll bring them on for
dude,
sure.
Fuck yeah. I will be on that show, and I'll quit my job to be on that show. I will not quit my job to be on that show. But hypothetically, listeners, I would quit my job to be on that show.
Maybe take a day off.
Yeah, maybe something like that. We'll figure it out. But either way, I would love to do that, man. Oh my God. I wouldn't even know what to say to those dudes. You guys are all in bands that I think are insanely sick. Yeah, shit. Wild.
Oh yeah, no. They know how to relax the guests and you know, just chilling. It's
sick.
You know, that's not my job. That's the other guys who are better at that. But also, dude, I mean, Warforged, you know, I love you guys' music.
Thanks,
I was so glad to get to see you live, pick up some merch, And Roman Ring is super fucking sick too. And yeah, dude, it's an EP that you just put out, or was there an album?
It's an album, yeah, the Halogen.
Full one, right? Okay,
yeah.
That one is sick. I need to listen to it again. I listened to it when it came out, and I remember being really impressed.
Fuck yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of you guys, and just hope that you guys keep staying active and putting out music, because I think you guys in Warforged and Roman Ring, you guys are pushing the boundaries in ways that are really exciting for a fan like me.
Thanks, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that, dude. We're just trying to take all the shit we think is cool and, inject our own shit that we think might be cool with it into it. So, hell yeah.
But in the future, yeah, I mean, if you guys, either project ever makes it out here again, hopefully one of my bands, either Transcend the Realm or my newer band Dreamer that I play drums with now, could open up for you guys, and that would be fucking rad.
Dude, whenever the fuck we get out to California again, I will email our booking agent 10 times asking him to get one of your bands on our show for sure.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
We'll
make it happen.
Take you to the beach, and we'll sauce you up and get you nice and California.
Sounds like a dream
out,
right now. It sounds so good. Hell yeah, man. Well, shit. Usually at the end of the episode, we let our guests plug everything that they would like to plug. So feel free to take this time to plug what you got going on, man.
Sure. So obviously, Cali Death Podcast, that's been said enough. CaliDeath.com is where I'm writing additional content related to the Cali Death Podcast and other musings on death metal in pursuit of an ultimate book history of the California metal scene, the death metal scene in California. Transcend the Realm. We've got a new album that I recorded drums for that we're currently tracking vocals for. We had a vocal session yesterday, and so we hope to release that this year. You could check out the last album that I played drums on, Perennial Discoveries. Just Google Transcend the Realm, our Bandcamp page. And then I also play with Dreamer. That's a new project that Chris Beatty has started, and it's basically been his solo project until I and another guy have joined now. We're putting together a live set of material, and we're going to start putting out some music. That's what I'm most excited about. I think Chris is like an amazing musician who has written this amazing album already 2 albums of music. That's like Dream Theater meets Fallujah. It's like progressive death metal of the highest caliber. And I feel super honored just to learn the drum parts that he's written and I'm starting to add my own style and a little of my own composition to that project. So keep on the lookout for Dreamer at Dreamer Metal. And then finally, To Violently Vomit, me and Diego and hopefully AJ, other vocalists are in the project, still connected. We'll try to play some death metal festivals and get out there. Hopefully we'll play Asia this coming year. We'll rebook that tour. But yeah, I'm trying to just do it all, man. I'm trying to bridge that, the academic side of things with, staying underground, staying brutal, and being uncompromising. So
hell yeah, man.
That's what I'm all about, man.
Fuck yeah. Well, sweet, dude. You hear that? Everybody check out all of that shit. And if you don't, I'm coming for you. Maybe. But fuck yeah, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show with us, dude.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate it. You guys are rad, and it was great spending this afternoon with you.
Fuck yeah. Thanks, dude. All right, guys. We will get at you next week with another episode of Nothing's for No One. Take it easy. Yo, it's me, Jason, and thank you for listening to this episode of Nothing's for No One with my homie Josef from the Cali Death Podcast, Dreamer, To Violently Vomit, and Transcend the Realm. Look at that. I got it all seamlessly, and I'm not even looking at my phone. If you like what you heard, on our end of things, please like, subscribe, share, find us on all the social media networks. Keep your eyes on Nothing's for No One. If you like what you heard from Josef, make sure to check out his podcast, the Cali Death Podcast, with his other resident pals that host the show. Check out his music. And thank you guys for listening as always, and we will catch you motherfuckers next week. Yeah. Bye.